Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Vishwagatu and this is VG Studios. If you're new here, I make short and concise Python tutorials regularly to teach my viewers the basics of Python. So if you haven't subscribed yet, please do so to be the first to watch my videos. My last video was about functions part 2. This video is a continuation of that, so if you haven't watched that yet, please watch that first and then come to this video. So today we shall start with return values. As I mentioned in my previous video, functions can be used to return one value to the point at which they were called. This value can be a variable, a value, or even a calculation, meaning a is equal to round of 2.3546, 2 shall return the value 2.35 to the variable a. A return statement does two main things. It immediately terminates the function and it passes the return value back to the function call. Functions can also have multiple return statements, but for that, they should be branched in such a way that each branch has a single return statement because the function terminates as soon as the first return statement is executed. For example, define my function if amount is equivalent to 1000, tax is equal to 10, return tax. Else, tax is equal to 15, return tax. In this example, we have both branches with return statements. However, one error that people may come across during this is making a branch without a return statement, and this causes the function to not end and the program does not move on after that function. Hence, it is necessary that you give a return statement to every branch, meaning you shouldn't do this by not giving a return statement for a case. Next, we shall learn about functions without return values. As I mentioned before, it is optional for functions to return values and we can always write a function that does not return any value. For example, in this function, we do not need to return any value as we're printing what we need already. In fact, you can also use a return statement in a function but not return any values by simply writing return without anything else. This will immediately terminate the function and move on to the rest of the code. We can also reuse functions in a program. Now this may seem obvious and yeah, it saves a lot of time when coding and basically declutters your code, making it seem cleaner and easier to interpret. For example, in this program, we repeat the same set of instructions twice, so it is better to use a function here which saves time. One tip to follow while writing functions is to keep them short and splitting up a function whenever it seems like it shall be too long. Next, we shall talk about variable scope. Remember how I mentioned that variables defined in a function cannot be used outside the function since they're local variables? This is because of their scope. In Python, variables have a specific scope, meaning the part of the program in which they can be visible after being defined. When a variable is defined inside a function, its scope is limited to the function and it can't be used outside. But in general, when it is defined inside the code, it is called a global variable and it can be used anywhere inside a function or in the code. On the other hand, the scope of local variables is limited in the program, for example, to a specific function. For example, in this program, there are scopes of the following variables, and these are the scopes. Now this shall raise the question of using the same variable name as two different local variables because of its different scopes. Well, you can actually do this where result is a completely different value in different functions as long as they do not overlap. So, as I mentioned global variables earlier, these are variables with a scope of the entire program. However, if you want to use these variables in a function, you should first declare them as global variables inside this function, like this. Last but not least, let's talk about recursive functions. These are functions that repeat themselves to give the desired output. For example, that brings us to today's bonus section, stepwise refinement. This is when we solve a difficult task by breaking it down into small and simpler tasks. You can keep repeating this process until you're left with simple tasks that you know how to do. For this topic, we shall first talk about a few steps to follow in order to perform stepwise refinement, and then we can do an example to make it clear. Now let's say that you want to take an amount input from the user to print as a text and digits on a check. For this, you'll have to take a number such as 123 and output 123. For this example, let's assume that we shall not take any decimal input and we shall be taking a maximum of a 3-digit input. Firstly, let's divide this into simpler tasks. Take the user input, determine how many digits the input is, assign strings for the hundreds place, tens and ones places, output these strings. Well, the input and output parts are simple, but the place assignment seems tough. Let's divide this into simpler steps now. We should have 3 different cases, one in which there are 3 digits in the input, one for 2 digits and one for 1 digit. Next, we have to design a function that outputs a number in a string form. Perfect. Now we can simply tell the program to use these strings in the hundreds, tens and ones places depending on the input. Now go ahead, pause the video and try to do it yourself. After you have tried that, you can unpause the video and see my version of the program. And remember, there is no wrong method really if you can get the right output using simple code. Here's my version of the program. Please take a look at it and feel free to leave any questions in the comment section below. So, today we learned about return values, return statements, variable scope, local variables, global variables, and finally, stepwise refinement. Thank you for watching my video, guys. If you liked it and you learned something new today, please go ahead and like, subscribe and comment, and don't forget to share this video with your friends. And also, if you have any doubts, you can put them in the comment section below and I shall try my best to answer them. Thank you.